DSGN View. Here we always examine various obstacles combating our nation, and we consciously think out of the box to offer alternative solutions and recommend long-term goals to solve them. My name still remains Oluwafumito Adeleye, and with me in the studio I have Linda Bayero. Alright, thank you, Linda, for joining us again. And in the studio we still have our guests with us. We have my guests with us, and we'll be talking to Dr. Oluyemi Omotosho Jr. He has been the former special assistant to the Chief Economic Advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo, and he is the former, or he was the former Dean of Student Affairs at Federal Polytechnic, and presently he is a Chief Lecturer in the Federal Polytechnic at Osun State, Nigeria. Also joining us on the show today, we have Mr. Raufu Sodiq Akikumi, also known as Oluomo Success. He is the convener of Osun Youth for Good Governance. He is also the spokesperson coalition of concerned Nigerian citizens and former financial secretary OAU Students Union with electoral committee. And he has also been the former deputy speaker at the DSGN College of Education in Ondo 2010. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Join me when we come back from the show. Continue on that same topic, which is a school strike in Nigeria. Okay, Mr. Raufu Oluomo Success, I want to start with you. But we had the last episode on this topic. You made mention of lecturers being somehow selfish when they make their request to the government. I wanted to
yeah, I think we reiterate that statement by saying, or I said last episode, saying that the lecturers are selfish in their request. Most of their requests, but all thanks to my father here with me, I tried to make some clarification that the first of all of their request, the first request of their request is the proper accommodation for all students and staff. But nevertheless, I will use the case study of African University as a case study. In 2017-2018, there was one of the biggest strikes in the issue of Nigeria, which is by the NASU, Non-Academic Staff Union of the University in OAU. Then, I was opportune to lead the more than 30,000 students and staff of OAU to Shubuye, to the High Court of Shubuye. What was the case? The case was between the Omotali issue then, when he came on board to space of verification that there was a specific, what we had as a student only that there is a specific amount of money saved in a specific account by the university management for some projects. When the job came and seeing that the staff of the school are lacking in some parts, and it took part of that fund to do that project. But the governing body of the school are not pleased with that attitude. And the next thing they did was to charge them to court. We as a student leader then, we saw that this is against the fundamental human rights of a person of Professor Omotali Omoyobola. And I took it upon myself. I led the then ASU, NASU to Shubu. We had a case in High Court to Shubu. And after the case was transferred back to again, when the case was able to be done in the multitude of students clamoring and asking for the release of our fees there. And the issue of where you never see people clamoring for the release of fees rather than their arrest. That's the issue for you. You don't have, once you arrest, you can go. You know that before the police come and arrest you, there are some point for them to come. But for us, most students, that will be the first time in the issue of where that the students, the lecturer, and the non-academic staff will come together to ask for, now the question I ask myself then is, why on earth do you charge someone that paid people remuneration what they work for? But they are saying that that money has been fixed in a certain account by some so-said cabals. Now, going forward, NASU then, now another PC was coming, but NASU stated upon themselves that if their requests are not being given, nobody is going to enter the Senate building. And that's bring up to something we call African science.
Okay.
Now, African science is such a way that once the PC wants to get there, something you ever call IMO that was have to put across. Now, that is the extent that this strike action can do. People who go to the extent of going traditional. Yes, people go to the extent of traditional to get their rights. Why on earth do I work for 30 days and I don't pay my money at 31 days?
Well, that's
now on Mr. Olomo's success, you talk about the people agitating because the funds that were meant to be used for, I think, students to develop the environment was hijacked. So I've been wondering, these school fees we pay and these hostel fees and all of these, you know, when you're in school, they ask you to pay for some, aside from your departmental fee and the rest. What is that exactly used for?
I think that question we have to answer just a part, and I will direct that part to my daddy here because he's in the areas of affair of the management of the school. They have been the dean of the student affairs. You have to tell us how the school fund has been spent. I've never been in that, I've not had the opportunity of being at the point of getting the school fund, rather to tell them how to set the budget. So I don't have the opportunity of saying that. But as far as the student, as far as the departmental fee is concerned, I've been able to be the president of economics education students when I was an A qualification before I get to student. Now, one of the things we use for this, well, there's always something we call welcome back to the refresher. We do that, we do orientation for the refresher, and just coming to the system. We do surveillance, those are the little, how much we collect? The most of the school collect 2,000, some collect 1,500, even some school have to reduce to 500. Now, so that to reduce the economic action on students coming. So some and some departments, after collecting those money, they have to do something to the department that the lecturer of that department are going to benefiting from. Those are what the funds are being used for. If you see, now there are some books you see the name of the department, that is what's called souvenir. You give us souvenir. After that, we do week. After that, departmental week, we do sports, we do many activities. Those are the funds that we use to do that. And the pass of the student. Thank you.
all right, sir. I want you to take it from what is
Let me just start from the idea of saying that lecturers or academic staff are selfish. They're not selfish. Our first demand is always the facilities, the equipment that will make the university or all tertiary institutions standard. Where we started, maybe there's some lack of understanding on the side. I don't blame you for it, not. The third fund that is the bedrock, the major area of funding tertiary institutions in Nigeria today was agitated for and suggested, agitated for, and forced government to approve it. We are the people who actually requested for tax, which we call tech fund. That corporate organizations, private organizations should be paid tax to government to fund education. And I tell you today, and you can testify to that, without that fund that I'm talking to you, all tertiary institutions in Nigeria will have collapsed. Because the budget is not released because of corruption, and when it is released, corruption will take part of the money away. And so we have that problem. So our fourth target is how to equip to make the university, the tertiary institution standard. Both ASU, and the colleges of education. The other one is equally important because you can't work like this. You can't work for 30 days and you will not pay your salary. Allowances will be over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then salary will not be paid as I'm going to, and you expect us to keep you quiet. We can't keep you quiet. Laborer salary is paid. And so that is just what. And the Nigeria of today, it is unfortunate that education has been relegated to the background. They are not funding education properly. Education needs to be funded properly. Even the 26% suggested by the United Nations, if they can't meet it, can't you make it out like 50%, 80%? We have never gone beyond 80%. And that's why most of the tertiary institutions and the primary and secondary schools are not there. Like secondary and primary school are in the concurrent list that states can actually intervene their people funding. Are they doing the best? You know, most of our children are in private schools, minus this private secondary and primary school. Where would they go? When you enter classrooms, it's a different ball game entirely. And so, education in Nigeria needs to be, you know, properly funded. Again, I must confess that the corruption in the larger society of Nigeria does not exclude all the schools. Most of the schools are corrupt. But the problem is the government again. Because if a culprit is caught, let him face the consequences. If the consequences are measured out to him, others will learn their lessons. And if you don't do that, it means they are collaborating. But as a former media assistant, I'm quite aware of what we call corporate bribe. Corporate bribe is that all your warrant is out as a tertiary institution, all your warrant in place of money. Those who are there, that's corporate bribe. And so when you start bribing from the top, then before you reach the level of spending the money, you are taking your own. And if you are taking your own, the person who took his own on top cannot ask questions because you start revealing yourself. These are the problems education is facing in Nigeria. We need proper training. The curriculum needs to be reviewed. Now our students need, they are not just restless. And the lecturer is because the facilities are just not there. I challenge government to provide standard, to fund education to the tune of like 20%, and see whether there will be a single strike in the next 5 to 6 years. If they can do that.
Yes, sir. You talk about corruption in the system, in the educational system. So I want to ask, is there any anti-corruption measures in the school?
Yeah, well, the only anti-corruption measure you can talk about is when possibly the vice chancellor or director or provost set up a committee to investigate whoever has been alleged or committed. Yeah, it exists. It depends. It's at the discretion of the management of the school. Again, the anti-corruption body for Nigeria like DSGN and ICPC, what are they doing? Why can't they, you know, populate the ICPC and the ESCC to the grassroots to the extent that we have each of these agencies in our schools? So if there is a problem, you report immediately and they take up the matter from there. The problem is that government is not just interested in fighting corruption.
So has there been any coalition between students and lecturers in order to see to it that there is limited rate of school strike? Has there been any way students and lecturers have come together to sit down, okay, let us discuss? Or is it possible that can come up?
No, when I was student union president in Lagos, I know we used to have meetings with our union, our lecturers, the ASU, NASU, and the rest of them. They guide us. If we have problems, we go to them. It's unfortunate I have to say this. Inequalities are bastardized student unions. To the extent that you cannot bow. In fact, most of the students for the current students don't even respect lecturers and they don't respect them. And you can't blame them because the government will call you to the villa and then give you some millions of naira. And so when you come back, you start behaving as if you are the Lord's man. Apart from that, before there is this esprit de corps that, you know, when lecturers are talking, students keep quiet. But these days, no, they don't do that. Because they are funded. Oh, when you see the student union leader that is writing a G1, so, and then the lecturer is writing a Corolla.
From my own side,
and so, all those, the problem we have now, that collaboration is weak now. It exists in some schools, but it's presently very, very well. And it's weak because government has put its hand in politicizing the student unionism and even the ASU itself. We are equally divided.
So there is no
well, even if there is weak.
Yeah, from my own side, I think from students side, we lack ideology. Yes. The lack of ideology. From our own side, when we are coming from that we don't mean the fact that when we doing this as a junior leader in the union lab, there is an ideology your system work with. Either you believe in the master, either in the angels, either in the all these philosophers, you are going to pick one ideology that you believe in and you are going to work towards. But today, no ideology. Everybody just come in now, big boy, fresh boy, coming up to the union with. Even for a student union leader to ask questions from the PC, you is scared. Because we believe that they are special, and if he is there, because he knows that in himself is not clean, and if he's going to equate him on becoming cleaner.
Sure.
Now, if you ask me as a senior young leader, am I a young boy? I can tell you physically no. But many of our senior young leaders today are into fraud. Let's say it to ourselves. They are into fraud, and when I'm into fraud, I cannot control that student that is not into fraud. And when I'm into fraud, I cannot tell the lecturer that is into fraud that you stop. Now, if PC is using a G wagon, let's say it's using a G, why a student is using a G wagon for 2025? And when the guy is coming to the guy, it's exactly at the space of the PC. And when the PC is speaking, my dear man, when the PC is speaking, before you know it, the PC will go out of the school already. They will attack it again. Because these guys have a lot of machinery and when there is money. So where is the ideology? Our ideology as a student when we started, I started for my leaders, was that as a student, when you have to come to school, you learn. When you learn, you have your own part of the movement. But you must every respect is one.
So that means part of the effect of school strike is that it has a negative impact on students.
A lot of
that's negative impact
on everybody,
on the system, on
kind of social unrest that
even on the country
itself. There's a problem in the weather protector and someone that is living in very good they will be trying because you know the guys can come to your side anywhere. And if that's not coming to your side, one of your relatives might be attached. It's
quite unfortunate that government has bastardized and politicized both unions to the extent that they are no more struggling for, what we actually need the system to do. That's why strikes are regular. Nobody wants to go on strike. Like me, I'm passionate for the job. That's why I did it. Come on. But then, when the facilities that are supposed, you need to get to my office to be ashamed of it.
Wow.
Doctor, recently we've not really witnessed strike. Like the previous time we used to have strike. Are we now saying that the government have really made effort in curbing it?
It's because
sorry to cut you short, sir. You'll give an answer to that question when we come back from the show. All right, it's been nice having you on the show. Join me after this break. Like we used to in the previous time. So are we now saying that the government has really made effort in tackling this strike?
The only effort that has been genuinely made is the release of the telephone form for the development of tertiary institutions. That is why there is calm in the center. That is one. The second reason is that, we have become notorious that we are always going on strike. And we need to supervise the students. That we need to supervise. You just see a student who was looking at the job for a 4-year program, 27 years, and then developing some of them and so all this is affecting us. And so the society has given us, almost a bad name. We are checking ourselves too. That strike will not be regular. It will be the last resort. But again, we are dealing with the government that all they understand is strike.
That's the reality, sir.
And the problem.
And to digress a little bit from ASU strike to NLC strike, I noticed that once they call on strike, want to go on strike, before you know it, the National 4 hours, those that actually called the strike will now come back and say, sorry,
It's a problem. The NLC are compromised, completely compromised. Most engineering workers are not interested in both the TUC and the NLC. You can see it's half people that are going. August protest last year in Oshun, I was part of the leaders of August traders protest against
against the federal government for action. And NSC told us categorically that they are going to join the protest. 2 days to the protest, we saw that they are just backing out. That they are not interested again, that the protest is going to be hijacked. My personal self, I have to go to the DSS, the police, and they call us to Abebe. That's come around the family name. I wrote everything that nothing to happen. That this protest was done. And to come the other protest was, Oshushe was given the best day that was peaceful in the whole of Nigeria. And that was the national convoy that Tinubu trying to pay now. Because I was part of the people that acted that we need the national convoy of the president. Because they are you that have ideas, they have insight, they have innovation that can give to the government.
Look at hijacking the strike is another problem. And that is on the part of the government itself. Look at the NSAS. The NSAS was peaceful. Yes. It was good.
Of course.
Only asking, please change this place.
These people.
Police should be polite.
There should be absence.
Now, government, obviously, even on their own television was shown as bringing thugs out to disorganize the truck, to attack, unarmed protesters. And constitutionally, we have the right to protest for our rights. I think government
almost killed at 2020.
Look, in third world countries, these are the things you see. And that is why, I have to say this, that is why Nigeria remains a permanently developing nation. Since I was in primary school,
we are developing.
I graduated from primary school, not developing, I graduated in primary school in 1971. Between 1969 and 71, in that primary school, in the morning, our teacher will write, Nigeria is a developing nation. Nigeria is a developing nation. Nigeria is still a developing nation.
Today,
I'm talking to you because of all these anomalies.
So what do you think the government need to do in order to curb this strike totally?
Permanently.
It's to make the environment conducive, fund education properly, be transparent and accountable.
Very good.
That's what they need to do. Corruption is palpable here. You can hold it.
Hold it and keep it where we need it.
Yes.
We need it to.
The 26% that is raised for education should be used properly for education.
Well,
if perhaps the 26% cannot be used, 25%. Let's see. If we should know that corruption is eating down on us and eating our future. It's eating the future of our unborn generation. Then we should find a way of coping it. Now, if you don't cop corruption, now corruption will cop our future.
And it should pay teachers well.
Yeah, of course. I'm a teacher. I should say that I'm a teacher. I am a teacher by training, by certificates, and by profession, by everything. So I am a teacher, but I hope I'm going to be a lecturer. I'm a teacher now. I hope I'm going to be a lecturer.
All right, sir. It's been nice having you on our show, Dr. and Mr. Oluomo Success. Thank you for coming. We've really, really enjoyed you, and I'm sure our viewers at home have also learned one or two things from what we have discussed so far. Linda, it's been nice having you on the show too. Thank you for coming. All right, our audience at home, I'm sure and we know that you've actually enjoyed our show, and we've learned and known the reason why we always have experienced a school strike in Nigeria. Okay, we want to hear from you. Join us on our social media handles, like, comment, and follow us, and it will be good to hear from you. So I would like to see you same time on the same station. Bye-bye.